Hello, welcome back to my channel. And welcome to the start of another Kindle Unlimited reading vlog. Are you shocked? Are you surprised? I know I said that I was done with Kindle Unlimited reading vlogs for the year, but I just can't stay away. And when I decided that I wasn't going to do weekly reading vlogs anymore, I knew that I needed to fill that space with some stuff that was going to fill me up in a satisfying way. You know what I mean? Like really soothe my addled brain. And you know what does that? Kindle Unlimited. This one's gonna be a different kind of vlog. Not different in like the format or the way it functions, but in the fact that I'm going to be reading 3 fantasy romance books, and I am so hyped about it. I keep hearing stuff about The Daughter of No Worlds. I don't know the author's name, I just know it looks a little something like this, and I know that our girl Rachel from Raven-Haired Reader has been absolutely into this book, and I want to be absolutely into this book. Speaking of our girl Rachel, I also want to read The Song of the Marked. I started that one for the reading vlog that I did, reading Rachel's favorite books. I'll leave a link in the description if you haven't checked that out already. It's a taste test video, but this is a book that I had started on audio, and I was really into it. I just didn't have enough time to complete it, and I was kind of in a weird headspace, but I'm in the right headspace now to read some fantasy romance, especially since it's so ugly outside. It feels very fitting. So those are 2 books that I know I'm going to read. The third one is going to be a wild card in that I have not decided before the video starts what I'm going to be reading. I'm sure you can see it in the thumbnail of the video, but I don't know what we're going to be reading next, but I'm excited about it. I'm going to go ahead and go home, and I think I'm going to start in on The Daughter of No Worlds first. It's feeling right. I'm going to get my Kindle out. I'm going to cuddle up in bed with my cats, and we're just going to have a really chill Friday. I'm excited about it. Hello, my friends. It is a couple of weeks later since I filmed that introduction. I didn't get to read my fantasy romance that weekend like I wanted. I had other stuff to do. I don't remember what came up, to be honest. Something important, I guess. But it is Monday, December 12th, and I am embarking on my fantasy romance adventure, and I'm very excited about it. I'm actually 25% into Daughter of No Worlds, which I will tell you about. But before I do that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the sponsor of today's video because I wanted to do my whole makeup routine with you while I talk to you about Daughter of No Worlds. But before I do that, I was actually about to put on one of these products that I'm going to share with you, and I realized this is a perfect opportunity to tell you about Dunginby. So I have been hunting for new skincare products lately. I have really been wanting something good for dry skin and anti-aging. I feel like I'm 28 now, and I feel like I need to start treating my skin a little bit better. I feel like historically I've been able to get away with doing less for my skin, less steps, and it's been fine, but I wanted to treat myself a little bit kinder going forward. Anti-aging is important, and I want to look as good as I can for as long as I can, and I was on the hunt for some products, right? Initially I was considering retinol because I feel like that is a buzzword that's been all over the internet lately, and there's nothing wrong with retinol. It just doesn't really suit my needs at the moment. I didn't want to deal with skin purging. It just wasn't for me, right? So when Dunginby reached out, I was like, okay, I'm interested, but I wanted to give their products a fair shot before I talk to you about them, and I've been using their products for about a month and a half now, and I have noticed I feel a pretty marked difference in my skin. I feel like my skin is less dry. I feel like it's less dull, and when I do the entire skincare routine at night, and all of the different steps, which I feel super luxurious, I feel day to day my skin has been a lot brighter, and I don't notice flakiness whenever I apply my makeup products, which that's exactly what I was looking for. And they're having a sale right now on a couple of their sets on Amazon, which is super nice. I'll have links in the description for everything that I'm talking about. When I sat down to do my makeup, I actually was about to apply the Daily Defense Essence. This is something that if I'm feeling lazy and I am not in the mood to do my whole routine in the morning, this is what I will apply. I feel it sits really well under sunscreen, and I know that it is protecting me from free radicals. That's one of the benefits of ginseng. Ginseng in general is a superfood that has a lot of benefits for the skin. It definitely protects against free radicals, and it promotes a blood circulation, so it's kind of similar to caffeine in that way. It'll kind of wake up your skin, sort of revitalize and regenerate skin cells, and there's a lot of science backing it, which I really like. I really like a luxury experience, but if the science doesn't back it up, then I'm not going to be as excited about a product. But anyway, this product in particular is for anti-aging, and again, it's one that's super easy to apply. It has sort of a gel consistency, and then I have 3 of the skincare sets, which I think are such a good value for money. I think this one might be my favorite set, is the moisturizing and firming set. I have been using all of these products already. I just put them back in the packaging so I could show you kind of what it looks like when you get them. But you get a softener and emulsion in the full size and in the travel size, and then you also get the moisturizing and firming essence and the moisture and firming cream. And the purpose of this set is for long-lasting moisture, which I really do notice with these products. Again, if I am feeling lazy and I don't want to do my entire skincare routine, then I really like just using the emulsion, which comes in kind of a pump form, and it feels like a lightweight moisturizer, and I will put that under my moisturizer just for some added hydration. I really like this set. And then the next set is the $18.99 single essence special set. It comes with the cleanser, it comes with a smaller version of the Daily Defense essence, and it also comes with the $18.99 single essence. You might be asking, like, what is the difference between these two? This is more of like a first step product, and it's a little bit more lightweight. This one comes after like cleansing and toning. This one is more of like a prep type product, and this one's more for anti-aging. And then there is the Hydra Bounce skincare set. This set takes dull skin and kind of even skin tone, and it has motherwort and ginkgo leaf, which is a little bit different than some of the other products. This one again comes with a softener and emulsion, travel sizes of those, and then the Hydra Bounce Cream Fresh. Again, I'm gonna go ahead and leave links in the description to these sets. If you want to try some premium Korean red ginseng anti-aging skincare for yourself, you definitely need to check out Doonginbi. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. Oh no, not me getting makeup in my hair. So this book is about our main character, Tasana, or is it Tasana? I don't actually know. I'm gonna go with Tasana. And at the beginning of the story, we find out that she is basically indentured to this man, and she is trying to gain her freedom, right? So at the beginning of the story, she has almost hit that $1,000 mark, I guess. I think she calls it like 1,000 gold. I guess that's her currency. She has finally gotten to that $1,000 mark, and she is going to free herself by giving her owner, I guess, that money. But whenever she goes to do that, things kind of go awry, and she's kind of in a tough situation, which leaves her escaping to a foreign country. And she's kind of excited to go to this foreign country. It's been her plan all along, even though some kind of like bad circumstances, I guess, lead to her going there eventually. Like, it's not the way that she planned, but she's excited to finally get there. And her goal is to train there, not even train there, I guess, necessarily. That's not really her goal, is to train. She just wants to get help from these orders of people. I can't remember the orders. I'll try to remember the names of them for the next time we talk about this book, but there's two different orders. There's one for, I guess, like regular human people, and then there's one for, I think, not Valerians, but Valians. I'm not entirely sure what they call them. Basically, people with albinism. So they have really, really pale skin, really, really white hair, and then I think their eyes also don't have any color either. And they are magical people, I guess. Also people without albinism who have magic, and they're called something else. I can't really remember what they call them, but people with, you know, hair and skin with more pigment to it. And theirs is an external magic, whereas again, the people with the really white skin and really white hair have like internal magic, I guess is what they call it. Anyway, our girl Tasana, she's kind of like mixed. She mostly has really, really, you know, white skin, really, really pale hair, but she also has like a strip of tan running through her face. She has a green eye and then a couple of like tan fingers or something like that. And so it makes her magic a little bit different. But anyway, she has escaped to this country, and they have two different orders. One is for the tan people, one is for the really white people. And they're both like, I would say, held in equal regard, but they just have different magics. And our girl is there because she wants to get help from these people. She's hoping that she can get help for her home country. So she was sold to a foreign country, and now she's in a different foreign country to get help. She is wanting to kind of like save her people, I guess, because there's been like wars going on. But when she gets there, she finds out things are not as they seem, and or that she is not going to get the help necessarily as quickly as she wants. So she gets to this foreign country. I want to say it's called like Erin or something like that. And when she gets there, she realizes that like everybody who is there is really experienced in their magic, and if she wants help with her magic, she's kind of a little bit too late, right? Like everybody starts at age 12, I want to say, and she's in her 20s. I don't know, the apprenticeship program has already begun for the year, so she doesn't really have anyone to train her. So they stick her with this guy who has a different magic than her, right? So she has the really pale skin, and the guy that they assign her to has, you know, the tan skin and the darker hair. He does not want to help her at all. He has like kind of sworn off the order. I think he's pissed at the order that he belongs to, or the orders in general, because I think they work together. And he's like, I don't really want to help this girl. I don't really feel like she deserves my help, but he has to. He's like being forced to help this girl, kind of against his better judgment and whatever. And she is a quick study. She really wants to learn things, and she wants to pass her trials quickly. Most people study, I think it's for 5 or 7 years or something like that. She says she doesn't have that kind of time. They make like a special exception for her since she is older, that like if she can pass these tests quickly, then maybe they can like accelerate her training. Yeah, this first part of the book is her dealing with this guy named Max, her trainer, and he doesn't really have a lot of like sympathy for her at first, but the more he gets to know her, the more he's like, okay, I actually have a begrudging respect for her, because, you know, even though I don't want to help her, even though I don't really want to help anyone, you know, she's very dedicated and she definitely cares, and, you know, she wants to create change because he is very jaded. He doesn't believe that the orders can really help people anymore. There's too much like infighting essentially, and that just like not helping people for the greater good. And there's a scene at the beginning of the book that I think is about him with another character who we learn about, and he's kind of like betrayed by this person, and it kind of would make sense for that to be his backstory and like why he is sort of the way that he is. Yeah, it's
interesting so far. I don't know how I feel about our main character, Tasana. Like, the way that I'm describing this book, I feel like if you've read Throne of Glass, it's probably sounding familiar to you, and it feels that way to an extent, I guess. But I also feel like Tasana as a character is so different than Selena. She definitely has, I would say, different tactics in trying to get people over to her side. She doesn't use brute force because she's like not a trained assassin or anything, right? Like Selena, but she used to be a dancer for some of that extra money or whatever so that she could become free. And she learned how to manipulate people in a different way, and I think it's kind of fun to read about. I think she's like a little bit naive for my taste. Like whenever she gets to that foreign country and she immediately is like, yeah, so I'm here and you need to let me into the special order and I don't have time to learn how to use my magic, so like just let me in, and if you like give me 20 of your best men or like best, you know, people, that would be awesome because then I can go to my home country and free them. And it's like, girl, you don't know anyone here, so like that's a bit of a bold ask. Weird because like no one reacts super negatively to that. I mean, they don't say yes, like we'll do that, but no one is like, oh, you're stupid. And I kind of feel like they should be telling her she is stupid because I feel like that's like a big ask from people, you know? I don't know. I don't hate her. I think she's fine. And I'm curious to see kind of where this goes. Max, the trainer, what's his name? Maxinarius or something like that. It's interesting. And again, he's not a complete like carbon copy of Rowan or anything. Even though he is a trainer, he's definitely a little bit less harsh with our heroine. If anything, I think our heroine's like harsher on herself with her training than he is. He's like, you need to take some breaks. You need to go to sleep. But since she's been having nightmares, she's like, I'm not sleeping. I'm just going to work all the time. But yeah, I don't know. It's good so far. I don't really have any super strong thoughts and feelings at the moment, but I am intrigued enough to continue, obviously. I can definitely see why people like this. I think the writing feels a little bit stronger than a lot of the other fantasy romance that I feel like I've read from KU. The ratings and reviews for these books are pretty great. I will say, like, ever since the vampire one came out, which is actually the third book we're going to read, I didn't tell y'all what the third book is going to be, but we're going to be reading, is it like The Serpent of something something? It's like one of those long book titles by Carissa Broadbent. It just came out. It's got vampires in it. Vampires, y'all know I'm there. Y'all know I'm there. So I'm like less interested in this one now, I guess, because of the vampires, but maybe it'll still be good. Maybe I'll still be intrigued. Anyway, I'm gonna go finish my makeup and then I'm gonna get like 50% into this book and update ya, because I want to finish this one today and I also would like to finish Song of the Marked today. And I have enough time to do both, so I'm gonna try for that. I feel like I am always running behind in these vlogs, but I am 50% into Daughter of No Worlds. Like a big thing just happened, and I'm not gonna spoil it, obviously, because I want y'all to be able to read these books for yourself if you are interested in them. But I think it's changing my opinion on the book, and probably in a good way. So I would say from like the 20% to the 50% mark, I was kind of on the fence about how I was feeling and if I wanted to continue with this book. Not because it's bad or anything, but because I have two other long KU fantasy romance books to read, and I just wasn't feeling super invested in the characters. I really don't know how to say her name. If it's Tisana, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Tisana. I just like it better. Okay, I don't care if it's right. I just felt like Tisana was kind of boring. Like, yes, I think in some ways she's better than Selena because she's less whiny, but as annoying as Selena is as a character, at least she has a character. And I feel like Tisana doesn't really know what she wants, and I feel like her goals are a little bit vague. It's weird because she has very similar goals to Selena. She wants to free her people. She wants to get the Order's help in freeing her people. She is well on her way actually to accomplishing this. It just feels a little bit too easy. Like, why are these people giving her what she wants so easily? And I guess we know now why they're doing that. It does come at a great sacrifice. I just feel like, generally speaking, her character is a little bit one note, and I feel like the plot of this book is a little bit basic. I'm not mad at it, and I do think we're going in a more interesting direction at this 50% mark. I've never really, well, I don't say I've never read a book like this. It's been a while since I've read a book like this. I have it on my shelves back here, actually. God, I really wish I could spoil it, but I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm gonna be a good girl. I just don't know how to talk about this book without spoiling it, to be honest. Like, I am curious to see, I guess, how Max and Tisana's relationship is impacted by her actions and like the choices she's making. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that she's aligning herself with the Orders to like get what she wants. And Max is very like anti the Orders. Obviously, he doesn't want to work with them, and we find out why that is, and that basically Tisana is making a similar choice and a similar decision to the one that he made many years ago, and he is trying to tell her like, hey, don't do it, and she does it anyway. And so I'm curious to see how this kind of like fractures their relationship. One thing also that I like haven't really loved is so much of the book, like 50% of the book, is focused on the training and the relationship between Max and Tisana, but I don't really feel like it's a relationship that is that exciting, that interesting. I wish we had learned a little bit more of the why behind the magic systems here. I think that would have made everything feel a little bit more real and more realized. And I also think that understanding these characters on a deeper level would have been great. It's like they kind of form a begrudging friendship, like we see that happen, but I still don't really understand why. Like I would love for there to have been more discussions. Like I guess they talk about their families at one time, but it just doesn't feel important or as deep as like the relationship between Selena and Rowan. I'm sorry. I don't hate it. Like it's a decent book and I'm going to continue on with it. I would like to, again, be able to start in on The Song of the Marked today. I'll probably get like 1 or 2 hours into that audiobook after I'm finished with this one, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna withhold my judgment. I'm thinking like 3 stars at this point, but maybe it'll turn itself around at this 50% mark and like really take me by surprise.
Welcome to my cozy corner. I just finished Daughter of No Worlds, and I think I'm gonna stick with a 3-star rating, which is so disappointing because I really thought this was going to be like incredible, mind-blowing, amazing, because I have a lot of faith in Kindle Unlimited, like indie authors. When it comes to like anything fantasy romance, it's hard to get published when Sarah J Maas is like kind of the only girl doing it in traditional publishing, so I just figure that like indie stuff is going to do inventive things, because that's kind of what I think of when I think of indie, right? Like most contemporary traditionally published romances, they all kind of feel the same to an extent, and I feel like indies kind of have different vibes, and it feels like there's just a lot of variety there. So I guess I just expected the same for fantasy romance, but this really did feel very similar to like Sarah J Maas book, right down to the vulgar gestures phrase included. Like, there was a sex scene, yay, I didn't care about the 2 characters getting together. It just felt all very cookie cutter, and maybe the next 2 books are incredible, but I really thought this would leave off on like a really crazy cliffhanger or something to where I would like feel super invested in reading the next book. I just don't really feel that way, which is sad, but you know, we do have 2 other books to read, so I'm going to not be too sad, not be too torn up about it. I think a 3-star rating is appropriate for this book, and it wasn't bad. I think if you are just wanting to read something very palatable and not have to like really think hard, I think this would be a great book. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. I think sometimes it's frustrating to pick up a fantasy and be like these like intricate interwoven things. It's, you know, you don't need Brandon Sanderson levels of like, you know, fantasy work here. So I don't know, if you're looking for something really basic, maybe this would work for you. You know, if you hate Selena, I think you might like Tasana better. Tasana, I feel like it's been a while since I've had like an Kindle Unlimited romance pick, so like it's fine. It happens, okay? Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I should probably have made my bed, but when do I ever do that? I don't. I am like 60% into The Song of the Marked by S.M. Gaither. First observation is that the audiobook and the ebook do not match for this book, and it's bizarre because it's not like it's a completely different book, but I was trying to read along as I was listening, and there's like whole sentences missing, or words from sentences missing, or sentences kind of switched around, and like the meaning for the most part is the same. Like I get the same, I guess, message from the story. Like I'm understanding it, right? Like either form is not like leading me astray, but it's just kind of weird that like they don't match up. I'm wondering if like the audiobook narrator was given creative license, or if there was like an earlier version of this book that was recorded first. I don't know. It's just very weird noticing the difference, but I do think I'm liking this book. It is, again, reminding me of Throne of Glass, and I don't want to compare all of these books to Sarah J Maas books, but I think a lot of authors probably get some inspiration from her because, you know, she's kind of the blueprint, I would say, for a true fantasy romance. This story also is kind of reminding me of From Blood and Ash by JLA in some ways as well, just because of how fast it's moving and the sort of, anyway, let me just start from the beginning, right? This book's about our main character, Cass, and she was sick, I guess, at one point. She is the only person known to have recovered from this like plague-like illness. I think it's called like the fade or something. She's fade marked, which means that her hair is bleached of color. I think her eyes are a different color now that she's gone through this illness. At the beginning of the story, she is trying to help her like mother-like figure, not actually her mom, but a mother-like figure, stay alive as well. She has the same sickness, and we have found not a cure, but something to keep this woman alive. And so that's kind of our main character's like thing. That's really all she cares about, is keeping her friends safe and making enough money to be able to afford this medicine for her mom. We're just gonna call her the mom. At the beginning of the story, we have Cass and her like band of friends going into this kind of like remote desert or something like that to try to gather some intel on the King Emperor's soldiers, right? So she works for a lord, I guess. She's trying to report back to that lord about the kind of goings on, I guess, like what the king emperor is doing, like why is he sending his men to this like remote area. And we don't find that out immediately or anything, but kind of flash forward a little bit, and our heroine has stolen a bracelet from one of these soldiers to pay for her mom's medicine, and she ends up getting in trouble for that and taken to the castle of the King Emperor. So we get her dealing with the soldier that she stole a bracelet from. We also get her dealing with the King Emperor, and instead of like prosecuting her for her crimes of stealing that bracelet, that's like why she's taken to the
castle in the first place, the King Emperor is like, hey, I noticed you're fade marked. We have been working with fade marked people to kind of find a cure for this plague since it has come to our part of the country. And so she is going to work with him to do that. And in return, he is going to give her enough money to be able to afford the medicine for her mom. The majority of the story, I would say, thus far has been spent in high action moments that I don't feel like really go with the story as a whole. I feel like the story's a little bit all over the place. I was reading some of my friends' reviews on Goodreads just to kind of see their feelings, and Crystal said that she DNF'd this book because she felt like the world building just wasn't there. You're just thrown into the middle of the story, or like thrown into this world without any world building, and I kind of agree with that. So as in the first chapter is like in this desert with her friend trying to solve some stuff. She's immediately stealing that bracelet. She is going to this castle. She is fighting things in a forest with a lander who is the soldier that she stole that bracelet from. Things are constantly moving, and so it makes everything feel low stakes kind of as a result. I kind of felt the same way when I was reading From Blood and Ash. There were so many fight sequences or scuffles that it felt less meaningful, and I think what I'm starting to realize is that I need a balance, right? Like I do want some sort of moments of tension, and I want some high stakes scenes, but those need to be tempered with character development and understanding of character. Cass is fun in that she does feel like more of a Selena type. She is a little bit more bold, but I don't really understand her personality very much. I don't really understand her motivations. It's like, okay, I get you want to help your mom, but that's it. It doesn't really seem like there's a lot more to her and like what she wants. And I feel like to have a really convincing romance or characters that you really root for, you need to know more about them and their motivations and like what makes them tick. And I'm just not feeling that way so far. That being said, I'm liking the romantic dynamic between Alander and Cass more than I did the romantic relationship between Max and Tisana. That one I feel like there was too much spent with those two characters in that training sequence that it was really boring, but also we didn't get any like relationship development or character growth there. And then in this book, it's like we don't have any of that. There's no moment of pause. We're also not getting the character dynamics and character growth that I want. It's like, yeah, here's some friends that this girl has. It doesn't really matter. Like she loves them, but you're never going to see them again because only the relationship between Alander and Cass matters. So I don't know. I do want to find out more about the King Emperor and his motivations. I am confused about that. Not confused, but he's obviously keeping things to himself. So maybe that'll be an interesting reveal, but it just doesn't feel super high stakes despite there being a lot of action. I'm not hating it, but I'm just kind of like, I'm starting to realize that I think fantasy romance is just a very tricky thing to pull off because fantasy, I do think actually kind of needs to be strong if you're not going to develop the relationship in a way that's interesting. I don't know. I just feel like with fantasy, yeah, it's like you're either boring me because nothing's happening or I'm annoyed because I don't know enough about the characters because there's too much action. So like maybe it's just not for me, or maybe I just haven't found the perfect one for me yet, but I'm gonna hold out hope that the third one is gonna be amazing. The third book we read. So anyway, I'm gonna finish this one and I'll probably update you on my final thoughts plus my initial thoughts on the serpent and is it the wings of night or something. But
please don't hate me, besties. I have some bad news. I am going to cut this video short. It's just going to be a 2-book KU reading vlog. We'll get there, okay? First, let me tell you my final thoughts on The Song Unmarked. I thought this book was fine. I didn't think this book was remarkable. I feel like, again, it had the same issue as that first book where I just feel like it could have done more. I feel like it could have been better. I feel like the characters in general were just not as fleshed out and well-rounded as I wanted them to be. I want to dive into a fantasy romance and like the romance is high stakes. I think that's why people like fantasy romance. I could be wrong, but that's my theory, right? I think a lot of people like fantasy because it's fun, but I think the reason that a lot of people prefer fantasy romance over, a contemporary is because it feels high stakes, right? Like we could die tomorrow. We need to be together now. Horrible circumstances are keeping these two apart. It makes things feel so much more interesting. And I just don't really feel like either of the books that I read for this video really felt high stakes. That being said, the ending of this book had a cliffhanger, which I appreciate. I think if you're going to do a fantasy romance series, you're going to have a good cliffhanger to make me want to read the second book. And this one, I am very curious about now. I think I enjoyed this one a little bit more too. I mean, even though the characters weren't as fleshed out and well-rounded, at least we got, a lot of like big fantasy moments. We've got a lot of like action happening, even if it felt like we were just kind of tossed into this world. I just think the character dynamic, again, between Cass and Alander, like, I just thought it was more fun. I like kind of more enemies to lovers sort of situation in a fantasy romance, and the ending of this one, I'm not gonna spoil it because maybe I'll check this one out, but I did enjoy the ending of this book. I feel like it was a good cliffhanger. I feel like I should have seen it coming maybe, and it's not like that different from like a Sarah J Maas cliffhanger, like a reveal kind of cliffhanger. But it was fun. I liked it. I don't know. I think I'm still trying to figure out what I like in fantasy romance. I think that
I still haven't found my perfect one. And I think I haven't completely given up on the genre yet, but I'm not totally sold on it. I think what I need to do now is ask you what your favorite fantasy romances are, and if you could leave the titles in the comments down below, because I would love to know if I'm missing something, like if there's an amazing fantasy romance on Kindle Unlimited that I'm just like totally overlooking. I did start The Serpent and the Wings of Night or something like that, this one, by Carissa Broadbent, and I think the writing of this one is a little bit better, or at least I'm liking it a little bit more. I realized when I picked it up that I'm just like not in the mood to read more fantasy romance at the moment. I know, scandalous to say, as I went into this video really excited to read fantasy romance, but I do think another thing that I'm learning is that fantasy romance for me is not something I could read back to back. I could read like 15 contemporary romances back to back and be fine, but with fantasy romance I think it's something I need to like sprinkle in every once in a while. That being said, I do really want to read this book, and I am going to include it as a read for my Patreon, and it'll also be discussed in my wrap up at the end of the month. Actually, I mean, it'll be in January when you get my December wrap up, but I will be reading this book. So if you were excited about my thoughts and feelings on it and you want to know my take, I will give it to you, but it just won't be right now because I want to give this book a fair shake, and I feel like it wouldn't be fair to read this book and not be in the mood for it, you know? I'm trying to be a little kinder to myself and kinder to the books that I read. But thanks so much for watching this video. I hope this was entertaining in some way. I feel like, you know, having two kind of like mid 3-star reads is not that exciting, but at least I didn't hate anything, you know? And I think I'm like finding out more about what I like about fantasy romance, and that's all that really matters. I'd also like to know, I guess, in the comments down below if you have a different take on these books, or if you've read more books in these series and you're like, Chandler, you really have to read more of like the Song of the Mark series. I mean, I'm down to do that if you say the next books are better. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I love y'all so much, and until next time.